on this episode of Drunk Chess.
My son is vilifying my character. He had one of the biggest schlongs I've ever seen. Okay. What is the point with, having sex with somebody if not in love with? I wrote like about 4 poems to topless dancers. Yeah, well, if you'd seen this penis, you'd have remembered it too.
Now here's your host, Carl Cinquino!
Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Drunk Chess. I have a very special guest tonight. He's the biggest asshole I've known my whole life.
Thank you.
Craziest guy I'll ever know, and he just happens to be my father too, supposedly. Welcome, the real Carl Cinquino.
Oh, thank you very much, the fake Carl Cinquino.
And my father has a chance of winning up to $30 tonight.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, let's go, and I'll just get this started.
So we're playing chess, which is, I guess, kind of based on a game of war. This is the bishop. I don't know why he's involved in a war. This is the queen, not to be confused with a sexual identity. What I want to know is this piece is the horse. What has the horse got to do with this particular war?
I just want you guys to know that he has been thinking of this joke for a long period of time.
What do they call the horse?
They call it the knight.
So the horse can only be used at certain times of the day?
It's a K in front of it, Dad. Okay, I'm going to cut off your rambling. Let's get to it. But I just want you to introduce yourself to my audience. What you like to do, what you have done, etc.
Cut down on the uhs, okay?
Polished
speaker does not Yeah, see, I started with an I am a retired lawyer teacher. I'm also a writer. Wrote a 500-page novel that I don't expect to ever be published, but maybe my kids will read it. And I have a small book of poetry called Love at First Sight. Massive bestseller. I think we got up to about 10 or 20 copies sold. But I am a pretty good writer. I was an excellent English teacher and a mediocre lawyer.
I just like the audience to know how I kind of came about. Where did you meet my mom?
In a brothel. I met Anne, that's his mother, who is like the perfect woman, except not for me. I was 13 years older than she was, and I taught her in high school, okay? You happy now?
Was this maybe like a one-time event for yourself? I mean, this has only happened once, right? This didn't happen many times.
This guy set me up to get on this show just to talk about my past. I refuse to answer that question on the grounds that it may tell the audience too much.
Kind of the inspiration for the show was the book you actually gave to me. It's called Drunk. What's your relationship with intoxicants, and what's your kind of like take on them? Like any opinions you may have?
I've drunk a lot of beers in my time. I've had very few episodes with hard stuff, which I do not drink, liquor. And I'll drink somewhere between 5 to 8 beers a day based on my mood.
Any other take on like other types of substances, like other drugs other than alcohol?
I can tell you that the few times in college that I did smoke marijuana, I felt very detached. I felt like a camera, whereas if I drink enough beer, I became more sociable. One time, a fellow student whose father ran a pharmacy, I needed to stay up, and he gave me what turns out to be speed. This is the 60s.
Just meth.
Okay, whatever it was. I took these exams. I thought I aced them all. I got like a D or a D plus at best. That whole night, my head was spinning around like a race car. And so that was basically my entire experimentation with drugs.
What's your opinion on politics, everything that's going on right now? The woke media.
The woke agenda is very clear to me. Does not believe in freedom of speech. Make sure that everybody can say what they want to say. I don't approve of all the nonsense, but that doesn't mean I have a right to say you can't say it. I basically draw the line at things that would harm others.
What's your opinion on Joe Biden?
Outside of LBJ being inadvertently responsible or advertently responsible for the death of about 80,000 Americans, Joe Biden is the worst president that I have ever seen in my lifetime. I'm 72 and I've been around memory-wise almost for Dwight, and he's the worst. Most incompetent, most spineless, most unprincipled president, and this includes a lot of bad actors.
Well, this might be one of the quickest games of chess I've had on the show. Checkmate.
Oh my God.
Want to play another game?
I got beat by a variation of the Fool's Mate. I think I would have to do that, yes.
Do you have any like good anecdotes from the times when you were either a teacher?
Any teacher that's any good goes through unbelievable stuff. So when I started my real teaching, it was in public schools. I fell for the prank of somebody putting a tack on my chair. Education is a privilege, not a right. And when the United States decided that education was a right, not a privilege, that led to everything you're looking at right now in terms of the schools. Kids are basically slaves. They have to be there and they're not being paid. Some people are going to act out. The first thing you have to do is free the slaves. Let them stop school whenever they want to. The second thing is make education a privilege, not a right. And if you act out, throw yourself out. Most of the time my students love me, and I used to think about it that I have to get them to like me. Let's say you're messing around in my class. I turn to you and I say, see me after school, detention. I said, you have to see me after school. You make sure you're there. And they come into my room. I say, what did you do? And they go, oh, I was talking. You told me not to talk. Are you going to do it again? They said, no. I said, okay, goodbye. It's the equivalent of the guy the gangster hanging the person over the cliff or whatever outside the window and not dropping them. They now owe me. They think I'm a jerk. I made them have detention. They didn't have to sit there for 40 minutes of nothing. They got 20 seconds. Are they going to do it again? No, of course they're not going to do it again. So I'm a likable guy.
Well, we made it to that part of the show. We have another mini game. The whole mini game of this is I'm going to read off a line from each 10 of your poems, and each one that you can recall the title of it, you will get $1 onto that prize money. All right. 3 months past her death, she called me to say she was not really dead. She said she wasn't the picture I had in my head. She said it was a joke by a guy whom she called Fred.
That's the poem about the internet scammer.
I'm gonna need a title.
The girl I met on the internet.
What's the story behind this one?
I got catfished enough times, let's say 3 or 4 times. Never spent any money to speak of, I think about $50. But this was like one time many years ago before everybody knew about catfishers.
The seducing, undulating, spoon-like curve of the hips and laps combined.
That would be half of the women I describe in this thing. Okay? A number of the scammers used porno actress named Ann Angel. And this is probably a picture of Ann Angel that I was writing about, describing it.
Now we've made it to the topless dancer poems. She begins to grow serious, grinds her lower body over my stiff penis, which is unfortunately covered by underwear and pants.
Yeah, that could be any number of poems.
So you're just in the strip club, writing your little notebook, taking notes.
These are people, I wrote like about 4 poems to topless dancers, and it was like 2 topless dancers, and this was one that made an impression on me. You're making it sound like I have 5,000 topless dancers.
I picture you at 12, a tall and serious young girl.
That is to my wife.
Which you met at 12? You picture her at 12 years old?
No. It's imagination. I picture writing a tribute to her and remembering, because it goes back to when she was like a kid, a real baby or something. I think it was when she was 40 at the time I wrote this poem. Going back to how she would have got to be 40 and what she would have looked like years before I met her.
We men can love each other as deeply as any souls can shoot to shining stars with interlocking hands. So it seems to me that you're not more than just a pedophilic predator. You're also a homosexual. You're very sexual deviant.
This is about Mary Kay's son. She brought her young son to visit Anne and I. Jack made an impression on me. This interaction, because I hadn't really had any interactions with young kids, that there was no reason to be reluctant to show affection to a young boy.
You showed a lot of affection you did to that young boy indeed.
No,
so
that's...
Who is Mary Kay?
A very important person to me who I almost married.
And when did you meet Mary Kay?
I'll take the 5th.
We'll meet again in the land of Ketchman and little boys, when you were young and jauntily sexy, and I was just a child.
That's to my other mom, my Aunt Vi. I'll be crying soon. She didn't have a kid herself. I loved her as much as I loved anybody. She was wonderful to me, and I'm going to start crying if I talk about it much more.
Why'd you call her jauntily sexy? It's more than just pedophilia, homosexuality. It's also incest.
It was because of all things. My mother was the pretty one. I had never thought of my Aunt Vi, being that pretty, and I still don't think she was that pretty. But I saw a video of her walking around, and it occurred to me she did have a period where she was jauntily sexy.
Imagining your wife at 12 years old, interlocking hands with little boys.
What are you trying to be?
Imagining your aunt as
What are you trying to be, Howard Stern? I'm gonna fucking smack you. You turn everything I say into something bad, and these are innocent things.
All football fans in recent years have seen the vanquished flame of once a college strong and great, this school called Notre Dame.
In '63, they met their low, and games could win but 2. A coach was needed badly then. The question was, but who? The season they began in fall. Wisconsin was the foe. It was the bomb that won that game, and catching it with snow. The team went on to win 9 times, and they were number 1. If they could now beat USC, a miracle would be done. But losing hardly dampened hearts, for now burnt bright the flame in once again a college great, this school called Notre Dame. My students used to give me a standing ovation for that poem. Want to give me a beer, or do I have to get up?
I can get you a beer.
I hope this is still recording, because my son is vilifying my character in ways that even he doesn't normally vilify my character.
Doesn't normally vilify you? I feel like I'm always vilifying you. You have got a lot of good stories, you know. I could bring up the Pasquale's hairy ass. I could bring up Brett Gittleman, the worst third base coach in history. But there's one story that surpasses and exceeds them all. And what's his name?
William Hentz.
Hentz.
We went to an all-male high school. We actually had swim class. And because the kids would not wash their bathing suits and leave them in the locker and they'd stink, we swam nude. Since we were swimming nude, and I was not exactly knowledgeable of a great many male penises, William Hentz comes into the pool, which of course we're all nude. I had certainly no experience looking at porno or anything like that. He had one of the biggest schlongs I've ever seen, okay? Made such an impression on me. So I bring it up and, jokingly to my
younger than adolescent children.
Hence wrote in my yearbook, to the biggest pump in 4G.
Hear that, guys? Biggest pump in 4G.
Because I was a gunner. I shot every time I had the ball.
And what was the other one?
Shoot much, Carl?
Shoot much, Carl, yeah. So I think this was maybe the inciting incident of my dad's sexual deviancy. Seeing just this other man's penis that he's been able to recall for the last 60 years.
Yeah, well, if you'd seen this penis, you'd have remembered it too.
What would you like the audience to know maybe about parenting? I haven't talked to any parents yet.
I didn't even particularly like kids or babies. My first child was born when I was 45. What you do with children, you give them a choice. You give them a choice that you want and the choice you don't want. Go to bed right now, or you can stay up for 10 minutes and they always take the choice you want. It's the equivalent of hanging them out the window and not dropping them.
It's a pretty manipulative and decisive way to raise your children.
Oh my God. What are you, Howard Stern?
Alright, to wrap it up, what's insight about life you got? What's something you'd like to tell the audience?
If you're not monogamous and you think you're not monogamous, then please do not get yourself into an agreement in which you're monogamous. Even I, in my first marriage, made it clear to my first wife that I wasn't the monogamous type, and it still didn't work. Because then it would be like, oh, well, you can have sex with somebody else, but you can't fall in love. Well, what is the point with, having sex with somebody if you're not in love with them? So the first thing is, do not get married young, unless, of course, you have no issues with monogamy. And the other issue would be, follow what you want to do. Don't violate your own principles, your own morals, ever. And I probably got this from Jordan Peterson. He says, he's not sure he believes in God, but he kind of believes in God. He would say something like, but I act as if I do. So I try to believe. Whatever it is anything means, try to believe in it, even if you don't. Worst case scenario, you're dead, you're dead. But if there's actually a creator, it might have some benefits for you, or you might be worth it.
Thank you guys for watching. He came away with $15 tonight that he's not getting because he still owes me money.
I would recommend going to Page Publishing and buy Love at First Sight if you can still find it. If I ever finish publishing Reality, you should read it. Watch this podcast because my son has better material than he used tonight.
It's a game show. But it was a really fun time. I'm glad you went on.
It's been real.
It's been real. True that.
True that.
Right. Thanks for watching.
Can I move this fucking thing now?
Yes. I'll turn everything off.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe. I crave the warmth of the sun in this dark basement.